2013, more than 100 students from 27 ACT primary schools, high schools and colleges took part in the first 2020 Vision Parliament of Youth on Sustainability, run by local environmental group Sea Change. Student teams presented their ideas for reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and living more sustainably, and found new ways of talking about the issues.
Shower's short, we always have a shower that's short. Showers that are short, save the day. All day long our water will stay. Hip hip hooray!
To prepare for the Parliament, students worked in their schools studying a focus topic such as water, transport or energy. They looked at their topic from a sustainability perspective and in relation to the ACT Government's commitment to reduce Canberra's greenhouse gas emissions. By the year 2020, the target is to reduce our emissions by 40% on 1990 levels. We asked students to come up with their own proposals for action to help reach the 2020 target.
The good thing about the last Parliament was that I got to see what the Earth would be if it was better or worse.
Out of last year's Parliament, I think the major thing I got out was that when you were coming up with proposals and presenting them to other students, you got a sense that you were meeting with other like-minded people and actually trying to make a change.
45 school teams prepared green papers or policy discussion papers that outlined their research findings and set out a proposal for action. The teams also developed a presentation of up to 5 minutes for delivery at the Parliament, highlighting their proposals. Students presented a total of 173 proposals for action. Each parliamentarian voted, first in small committees and then in the full Parliament, to choose the best 24 proposals for the presentation to politicians and for inclusion in the final Parliament White Paper.
I think the value I got out of coming up with proposals for action was you actually have to think about what is realistic and what can be done and what should be done. You've got to balance those, and you realise how hard it is for politicians and things, but you also realise that you can come up with an answer. Like, it's not impossible, it's just you've got to put work into it.
The final proposals included building on the light rail ideas already proposed by the ACT Government, making household rainwater tanks compulsory in the ACT, drafting new sustainability legislation, introducing intelligent, energy-efficient street lighting, building all houses to passive house standards, creating more community gardens, planting more trees, encouraging fresh food markets, and creating bipartisan agreement between all political parties to commit to reducing carbon emissions.
I found my students that ended up going to the Parliament got incredibly involved in their topics. They were really engaged. They were so attached to their own ideas. If they didn't like an idea, they were very vocal and passionate about that. So it was really good to see, I guess, the parliamentary process actually in action, and the voting and also all the lobbying that went on behind the scenes where people were trying to convince other people of their ideas and tell them they didn't like someone else's idea and why it wasn't appropriate and so on. So that was a lot of fun.
In the last Parliament session, students elected as ministers for their committees presented the final proposals to the ACT Minister for Territories and Municipal Services, Mr Shane Rattenbury, and the Federal Shadow Assistant Treasurer and Member for Fraser, Andrew Lee. The whole Parliament then took part in a lively question and answer session with the politicians.
Having the politicians at the Parliament, I think gave the parliamentarians a feeling of sort of support from officials, I guess. And I personally felt that as well, that they were interested and engaged in the Parliament.
The connection with the real political process did not end at the Parliament. 4 months later, the student ministers met with an ACT Legislative Assembly committee. They presented the Parliament's final 24 proposals and impressively put the case for action to achieve a more sustainable Canberra.
Because it's one thing coming up with ideas as part of a group of youth, but then actually presenting those ideas to people that make changes and implement change, I think was the most valuable part. One MLA gave a really important piece of advice. He said, if you don't scream, you won't be heard. And I think that's one of the most important things, that we're getting our voice out here, and if you don't get that voice out here, no one will ever know about you.